You lack courage as a man. Me too. And in this video, that's what we're going to go over is my journey with courage and my journey to gaining courage and where I am on my courage journey. Now, maybe you're a man watching this or a young man watching this and you've come across this journey or you've seen some of my content or maybe you're seeing this for the first time. I'm going to kind of share with you a little bit about my journey and also share with you my edge today. Making this specific video right now is my edge, and consistently what I'm doing more and more of right now is trying to lean into that. So here it goes. So the reason why I'm creating this video is that I want to lean in. I want to lean into something that I've been avoiding, and yeah, that's basically my intention for this video. So let me go back to the beginning of my journey. So as a little boy, I was obviously in a family with a mom and dad, like most people, and grew up with the alcoholic father and abusive father. And he got in a drinking and driving accident at 6 years old. When I was 6 years old, and he got in a drinking and driving accident, actually went right through the windshield, went across two lanes of traffic. He went right through the windshield, landed on his face on the ground, and went across two lanes of traffic, and the van kept rolling. I was basically like crunched. And ironically, because he didn't wear his seatbelt, he was able to live. And yeah, being at 6 years old, having that kind of experience is quite challenging. And as a boy, not having your dad around. So, anyways, that led to my mom and dad basically divorcing and then not being around my dad for quite a long time. So that led us being raised, my brother and I being raised by mom, essentially, or women. And my nana and my great nana were a big influence on me. And my nana did have a papa, but he wasn't really someone I looked up to at that time. And there's only so much your grandparents can do, right? We were in a different city. So yeah, being raised by a single mother. So the power of being raised by a woman itself is that you become very empathetic, you become very sensitive, you pick up high levels of EQ, emotional intelligence. So with that allows you to basically connect. But the challenge with that is it lacks masculinity. So that led me on a massive journey. Obviously, having no father and not knowing how to attract women. And that led me to landing sober in Vegas around age 27. And I explored the programmed conventional masculinity where you learn to pick up women and sleep with them. And I went through a whole darkness period with that one. And I believe that by the more women I would get, the better I would feel about myself. But in actuality, I was just pursuing my ego and validation. So, what did I want? I wanted egoic validation from other men to say that I'm a man. And I wanted to feel more manly by sleeping with a lot of women. And at the time, before I experienced that, I would have said that that would have made me feel good. But while I was in Vegas, it was actually very dark. It was a very dark time for me, as you can imagine. Being in Las Vegas, a dark time. Well, I was there sober. So I was meditating pretty much every morning. And I was also floating sensory deprivation tanks. If you haven't heard of what that is, I'd highly recommend you go check that out. But I would go into a sensory deprivation tank and I would sleep there, I would reflect there from my night, and I'd review all the social interactions. And then after sometimes going nights out, I would take notes and I would try to understand what I could have done better. And then when it worked and I picked up a chick, like I just kept getting better and better and better. And at the same time, my sales started to increase because I was working in promotion there. And it was a really crazy journey. And it got to a point where I was so empty and my heart was so saturated with all this darkness from Vegas that I left and went to India. Then I went to India and I went pure spiritual and basically cleansed myself from Las Vegas, and then landed back in Canada where I was compromised inside myself, because on the one aspect I had this pickup guy, and on the other aspect I had the spiritual guy. And when I was the spiritual guy, I could never attract the women I wanted. And when I was the pickup guy, I could never attract the women I wanted. Both sides, it didn't work. And the reason that was is when I was the pickup guy, I was attracting women that had no substance. And then when I was a spiritual guy, I was attracting women with a lot of substance, but none that I was really physically attracted to. So then I just said, okay, I got to clear the slate here. And I went celibate. And I went back to Vegas a second time to clear my karma this time. So I went to Vegas a second time sober and celibate while living out of a van. And that's a lot of a story for another day, but that was an incredible experience. Like, I started doing like heart opening ceremonies for women and men and helping in different ways and cleansing myself. And I got tempted like crazy there. And then that led me to then, being on a pursuit to find my now wife, where I am actually getting married coming in June, like officially, legally, which is also another interesting step. So as I've gone through this journey, I've sought a lot of information on how to be a man. And a lot of that was based upon how you're watching right now. I was raised by YouTube, I guess you could say, and people on YouTube. And so I would draw upon their wisdom and their understandings, and then I tried to go implement. And that played a big part in my development. And so that's why I'm so excited to share this with you, because exactly what you're doing right now, listening to me, is how I learned as well. Now, the key to all of this, though, is you really want to understand, who do you listen to? It's a fundamental. Who do you listen to? You want to listen to someone that has been where you were and that has what you want. Two key elements. Now, you may be asking yourself, Matthew, how does this relate to courage? How does this relate to men? I'm getting there. But you want to have these two key understandings, because there's a lot of information out there, there's a lot of people out there, but you want to be really selective with who you listen to and the experiences. So if you're a young man that's lacking masculinity, or if you're a man lacking masculinity, or if you're a man lacking courage, then I was there. And I'm still there right now, and I'm going to get to what I'm facing right now. But I kind of want to build the foundation to get there. So that led me to being a coach. And I've coached a lot of people. Now, probably I'm close to just under 1,000 people, because I was a public speaker trainer, and then that gets a lot of people in your room. You got a lot of private clients in this. But something interesting happened in that process of my clients. About 80%, if not more, are women. Of all these people I've coached, a majority of them are women. Now, you may be asking yourself as a man, Matthew, what's up with that? That seems pretty good. That seems like the thing you were working towards. Why is that like a challenge? How are you lacking courage? Like, right now, I want to ask you, how would you feel if you had about 50 eyes on you of women staring at you, and you're the only man in the room? You're the only man in the room, and how would you feel if 50 women were looking right at you, and you're the one up there curating the experience and having to articulate in a way to create a transformation, but then be respectful, and then also not have hectic energy come your way, right? There's a certain level of courage that you need to go into that room. I will tell you that from experience. Like, there's a level of courage, but the courage I had was to be in my heart. And by going through all these cycles with trying to understand women, because the irony is, on this journey of masculinity, a big part of it is understanding the femininity, the feminine energy. And if you can start to study, right, a big part of what knowing what is knowing what's not, right? A big part of knowing what's right is to understand left. So the interesting thing that people take is they take a biased standpoint on the thing that they're learning or the thing that they're trying to cultivate. But what we actually want to do is we want to have a more well-rounded approach, where what you can do is you can learn from the opposite. So if you're wanting to learn how to be masculine or have masculinity traits within inside yourself, a big way to understand that is to start to understand women. What attracts a woman? Why does that attract a woman? When I act like this, or when I say that, or when I stand like this, or my tone of my voice is like this, or when I approach her like this, why does that attract her? And then what you can start doing, and what I did through manipulation, is I started to alter who I was inauthentically to get what I wanted, which was to sleep with women. But in that process, you want to be mindful not to lose yourself. So there's a lot of nuance to this, but this video today is not about how to be with women. This video is about how to have courage. So that was my journey. So pretty much up until this point, a lot of my clients are women or some very soft men, you could call it that way. But I never had like strong masculine clients. And a part of that was this. When I was younger, I would build young men up, like my friends and some of my close friends. I would help them out with the things that I was learning. I was learning about self-development and all this stuff. And a trend that I would see is when you build a man up, one of the challenges, and by the way, this is a story that I've told myself, is when you build a man up, you build their ego up at the same time. And then when you build their ego up, they challenge you. And so as a coach, when you're interacting with a very masculine man, you're going to get challenged a lot. And you're going to get challenged to who you are. But up until this point, I wasn't ready for that kind of challenge. I wasn't ready to be challenged in who I am. Because who I was back then and up until this point, I'm like, I don't feel strong in this character. I don't feel strong to get challenged. And by the way, being challenged is very healthy. There's a way to go about it. There's a way to challenge people. But we want to be challenged. By being challenged is where you grow. So being challenged is actually a very healthy process, but I wasn't ready for that kind of challenge. So I ended up helping and do help a lot of women. And one of the things that I love about women when you empower them is that they just get more and more powerful, but there's no real limit to their confidence. And what I mean by that is very rare in my experience with working with literally hundreds of women. Like, I could just keep pouring into them. But my experience with men is when I pour into men, that they create resistance at some point because they want to challenge my standpoint, which is healthy, but I wasn't strong enough in my masculine energy to receive that challenge while doing the work. And so that leads me to what I experienced last week, which was absolutely incredible experience. I joined and I am a part of this entrepreneurial mastermind of a bunch of coaches. Generally speaking, there are a lot of men that show up. And when I first joined this community, I joined through my girlfriend's profile. And I got her to join the calls because I'm going to justify why, but there's no excuse, but I'll just justify right now. I was leaving and I just got almost put in jail for, and this is a long story. So if you want to know more about this, I'm more than willing to make a video and I will come public about what I experienced in Bali. But I was faced with my freedom at one point. And that really scared me. And that really caused me to go on an inward journey. I left Bali within 3 days or 5 days, I think, of this event happening. Everything was good. Everything was legal. It's a lot of nuance to why this happened, which I'm not going to go into here. I may create another video. But that experience caused me to go inward. And I wasn't prepared to jump online. I wasn't prepared to have myself seen. I grew my hair out. I grew my beard out. And I was just really not feeling good at all. So it was more of an inner journey. So I put my girlfriend on these calls with these entrepreneurial men. And there's some women, but majority men. And we were working on our business. And I would sit off to the side of the screen and sit in on the calls. From there, I eventually worked up the courage to come on the call. And that was super transformative. And at the same time as I was coming on the call, my partner was leaving the calls and I started to be me. And then at one point, I got the courage to open my mouth in front of everyone. Interesting enough, I'm a public speaker, right? And worked up the courage to speak. But what I was working on was speaking from my heart, which is what I'm working on speaking from right now, which is a whole new way of speaking for me. Because I can do the whole well-oiled and put together stuff. But for me, that's not what's going to create change. And the change that I was contemplating this today, I'm like, what do I want to see more of in the culture? What am I not seeing and what do I want to see more of? It's like, yeah, speaking from the heart and coming from this place where it's not all together, not all these clips, they're all edited and all this stuff. It's just a raw expression of self to where you can feel my heart, and I hopefully can feel yours at some point, maybe in the comments. And so I started joining these calls and I started sharing. And one of the things I realized was this interesting little marketing thing. I've made it a marketing thing. The person who shared it's not a marketing thing, but I made it. If you want to increase your show up rate, so this is going to be like for an entrepreneur, but if you want to increase your show up rate, you got to show up in your heart. So what does that mean? Well, there's a shift that is, the market is sophisticated right now. The market's gone sophisticated. It's very aware of all the marketing tactics and very aware of all the like swings and buzzes and this and that, and with all the clips and everything. The market's ready for people to show up in their heart. And I'm early on a trend. I know I am. I'm early on a trend right now, but you'll see as the market gets more sophisticated, as AI starts to develop, people are going to be really ready for this kind of connection. We're just so ready for it. So I'm practicing now. And so when I got on these calls, I would practice, and I realized what the mentor on the call was doing is that if you want to change your business, you have to show up in your heart first and then come up into the thinking. But what a lot of people do is they forget the heart altogether and then come up into the thinking. But guess what? That takes courage, just like this does right now, to express all of this. I've closed my mouth and I tried to be something for everyone. And guess where that got me? I got results and I could have kept going in that direction. But it's not authentic to me. It doesn't feel good in my heart to be this well-oiled thing that is put together. And by the way, look at this. Like I'm using a camera. I've got a microphone. I'm put together. But I mean in the expression of how I'm expressing myself. I'm okay. Like, I don't know if you just heard that. I mess up words, but I'm okay with that. And I just am continually strengthening, speaking from my heart right here, exercising that, working on that, having the courage so that when I was going through these calls, I started to realize I need to practice speaking like this. And the first time I remember I came on the call and I was so shaky. I was like, breathing really heavy because like I was really nervous. And I was speaking from this place inside myself. And I can remember there's this professor that joined the call from UCLA, one of the top psychologists, and he reached out to me. By the way, if you're trying to be a coach or you're trying to understand the coaching business, it's a big rabbit hole. So even professors from UCLA are trying to figure this out, and so he reached out to me because I was sharing quite raw. You're not really, we're in an entrepreneurial room. Why are you sharing like this? But I was picking up on what the coach, the head mentor is trying to get to, is trying to get us in our heart. And so he reached out to me a couple months later after I've been practicing speaking from my heart. And, he saw me in the rough part and he reached out to me and we got on a call together. And he's like, I'm not trying to offend you or anything, but I'm just curious, like, you have clients? He said, you got clients? And I was like, yeah. So really interesting is you're seeing me at my most vulnerable, raw moment. And I was trying to show up and hold nothing left. So the way that you can think about it was like, once someone sees you naked, that's basically as raw and as vulnerable as really it gets, right? So imagine that's basically how I tried to show up on this call, naked, like nothing left. Like, let me be as honest and raw as possible, and let me not try to hide anything. And when someone observes that for the first time, that might be like, yeah, it clearly doesn't have, how can you have core confidence from that place? I built confidence from a superficial place. So yeah, I'm going to quiver in my voice, and yeah, I'm going to sound awkward, and I'm not going to have a force from the place. Even right now, I'm getting sore talking like this because I don't have a force from this place yet. But I'm okay with that. And I'd rather you see these things. I'd rather you observe this, and I'd rather speak to this now rather than you see it together. Because that's the other thing too. People would see me as a public speaker and they'd see me after the fact. And I'm like, no, like, let me show you. And I would in some of my trainings. I'd be like, I broke down some of my first talks. I'm like, look at how awkward that is. Look what I was doing there. You see my foot tapping, you see my knee tapping, you see my head, you see where I'm looking. Like, I would just reveal it all, because it's more real. It's way more real. So that takes me to this week, or last week, Wednesday. I get on a call, all men, and I had a sales call after this call. So I was just going to jump on this mastermind and not say anything and just hang out. And the mentor called upon me. He said, hey, would you like to share your experience with being in this community and da-da-da? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like I've gotten great benefits, like, and started sharing. And then it's called a hot seat. I got put into the hot seat, and I was like, I'm not even trying to be in the hot seat right now. I had to message my now wife. I had to message her and be like, hey, can you talk to my client? Like, I'm in the hot seat right now. Like, this was not planned. Anyways, this hot seat probably went on for literally 2 hours. And we got to the place where we unraveled what I've been avoiding. And what I've been avoiding is doing men's work. Whew. Okay, I let it go. Yeah. I've been avoiding doing men's work. I've not wanted to work with men, really. And I've kind of geared my products and how I've been. And basically, we revealed, which I agree, was that there's a overcompensation or over femininity inside of me. And I've been around a lot of women. My clients are women. And he's like, I bet women love you. Like, they think you're probably such an exceptional man. And I said, yeah, they do. Like, when I'm on stage, when I'm interacting with them, like, yeah, I mean, I know I don't do it consciously anymore, but I know I've built my character around attracting women. But you may ask yourself this, well, Matthew, you're saying you're a feminine woman. How are you attracting women, or how are you interacting with women in the way that your clients appreciate you, in the way that you're with women as in your audience and this and that? You have a girlfriend or now wife, that is attracted to you. Clearly you're displaying some masculine traits. It's like, I am, for sure I am displaying masculine traits, but I'm definitely overcompensated in the femininity. So what I mean by that is that I can interact with women so freely, so effortlessly. And when it comes to interacting with men, I actually, in the past, for sure, have developed a fear of men. I had a fear of men, I think, up until like 24 years old. So, and then I had projections, growing up with a single mom, she projected into me how men are bad. And even still to this day, she's working through some of her stuff with men. And I recognize that and I appreciate that. And everyone's on their journey. So I had to learn how to be a man and how to be around men. And in that process now, where I'm at in my practice, in my business, is now leaning into helping more men as opposed to all women. And so one of the things that was recommended to me is like, go hang out with more men, essentially, which is really good. I'm right in the process of being around more men and calling that in. But I thought that was interesting to realize. So I sat in this hot seat. I had all these men, like, basically, and I just opened up. And I was just letting myself be seen as I am. And honestly, I cried on the call. I cried in front of like a bunch of men it's an entrepreneurial space. Like, what am I doing? But what happened is I opened up the gate for conversation. Some guy that never takes himself off camera came off camera, and he expressed to me, another guy said, like, I appreciate you going to this space because it's giving us an opportunity to create a conversation. But I'll tell you this, I was absolutely blown off my seat after. And I was like so tired. And so since that call, I've been working on gaining the courage to work with men. Yeah, that's just like my edge. There's so much tightness inside of me when I think of that. And all the stories I want to tell myself about, working with men, you're going to you're going to develop their ego, and then they're going to challenge you, and you know how that goes. But this is my edge now, is to guide men, because I needed a guide. I needed this when I was where potentially you are right now. And so how does this look like moving forward? Well, first of all, I'm now staying put in Vancouver. So I've decided to stay put. My wife and I are staying put. One of them is getting married too, by the way. Like, these are all shifts that are helping me cultivate my masculinity. One of those being staying put, being rooted, being grounded, having a regular routine, then starting to build a community, a network of men, and opening. The key to a lot of this is, if you ever get into the coaching business, it's 99% inner work and 1% action, really. Probably more so 90% inner work, 10% action. But it's all the inner work. So by me showing up right now, vocalizing this, if you think what I'm doing, I'm putting a frequency out into the public in this way. This is something that I wouldn't never share. I would just start doing it. But how does this look like moving forward? Well, I'm going to be launching a business pretty soon called Reborn Mind, Body, Soul. Probably not in this video, but look out for videos to come. I'm going to be creating a community of individuals, and let's see, I'm opening up the frequency to men to reclaim your life. So if you're challenged with women right now, if you're challenged with addictions, if you're challenged with your family, if you're challenged with your work, any of these areas of your life that's pulling you back, really you're looking for a rebirth here. And that's what I had at 25 years old. 9 years later, I'm following that journey, but I didn't really have a guide to guide me through it in all three areas. And so we got to reboot your life if you're there. We have to have a full transformation on the mind, body, soul. They're all connected. So part of that is having the courage to step into that, to step into your ultimate version of yourself. You need courage. You have to have courage to be able to do that, and courage to do it in front of others. That's the key. You have to have courage to do it in front of others, because whatever environment you're in, for sure, who you are today they're not going to want you to change. They might not vocalize it specifically in that way, but I can guarantee you this: humans do not like change, even though change is a constant. It's a constant in our reality. So I'm having the courage. I'm speaking out what I'm doing right now. I got all these people out of the woodwork starting to follow me on my social media. I've not had social media until I was 30 years old. And I've come back home now, being away from Canada for 5 years. And all these people are starting to find me. Isn't that interesting? I tried to make it on social media without being seen. So that leads me to my next point. I'm having the courage to be seen. Partly that's on this video, letting you see me as I am, but then also coming on social media and letting people from my past see my new version. You know, some people haven't seen me. Majority of people have not seen me sober. They haven't even seen the sober version. I got a comment from someone. This is going to 100%. I got to work on this. I'm working on this right now. I'll let you know, I'll be honest. I'm working on this bit, but it's so good. It's such good material. I had someone reach out to me and he said, whoa, like you look a lot different. Last time I saw you, you were 4 feet tall. That made me laugh. I was like, yeah, man, things changed since high school. Well, for some people, you know, it's like in the sense of that, like, of course I look different. Of course I'm different. Like, by the way, that comment came, I was genuinely about 5'2" when I left high school. So I have changed quite a bit since that moment. But that's to show you what I am in some people's paradigms, in their image of me. And I have that strongly burnt in a lot of people, you know, of who I was. So I have to have the courage to stand in who I am today, unattached from outcome. On top of that, working with men. It's a lot to work through. So my invitation for you is I would encourage you, if you can today, in some way, let yourself be seen as you are, as who you are, who you really are. You know, are you putting on a front to people? Are you putting on, so I know I have a lot. I've put on a big front for quite a long time. But I would encourage you to allow yourself to be seen as you are and see what happens. Test it. And by the way, you got to be unattached from results. You got to go in with intention and attach from results. So I'm going to be launching a community in the next couple weeks. It's going to be a free community. And in that community, it's for like-minded individuals like yourself that want to change their life. They're looking to be around other people in a supportive space that is willing to cheer each other on. Because this journey to becoming the ultimate version of yourself, even though it's a selfish journey, you need other people there. So I want you to join this community when it comes out. And I'm also going to be coming back onto social media. You know, YouTube, set it and forget it, but more interactive day to day. So you can check out my handle on Instagram and also the handle Reborn Mind, Body, Soul. And we're going to be putting together some content here, and we're going to start launching this puppy dog pretty soon. So really looking forward to it, really looking forward to launching this whole thing and sharing more with you like this. Also, I just got off a podcast today, so I'll be launching the podcast as well to give you experts advice and what they think. Because, by the way, although you want to find someone that has all three, mind, body, soul, but really you need experts in all fields, nuance experts. You know, I've hired a lot of nuance expert coaches along the way. I'm just making the payment today. It's like I'm gonna hire a consultant for getting the visa for my partner here. I mean, it's part of why we're married. It's also the visa situation because she's from England. So, you know, having detailed nuance experts in their fields is very powerful. So allow yourself, have the courage to be seen. Allow yourself to be seen as you are. All right, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.